it's a huge volume of waste that would have to be dealt with. So government would be the one best suited to handle some of these things. You see, so provision of even the collection service. You realize we've had certain private individuals who have tried to take advantage of the system, but on that scale, on that level, it would only make sense if the biggest player, which is government, steps into that space.
The problem is the mindset. Not government not having scientific means of dealing with waste. If any leader with a will to end it can come up with bright solutions and enforcement. Our military, imagine the circle or Door River, and we see our personal soldiers cleaning the field in the city, and after cleaning they leave one or two personnel to stand there. You think anybody can drop anything in the city? That could be the military could be a constructive way of ending. You see a soldier cleaning and you think you can mess it up after he does that.
If you commercialize the waste, right, then individuals will be incentivized or motivated, encouraged to keep that rubber so they can use it for something else.
Welcome to the Warrior Kings podcast. This is the best patriotic podcast in the world. Here we talk matters political and patriotic. And I'm yours truly, the Okugo president. And I have my intelligent brother, Niai, here. Or rightly be called Field Marshal Niai.
That's more like
Welcome, my brother.
Greetings, bro. Right.
And so we have a lot to talk about today, especially. There's tragedy happening. So first on the plate, we talk about cleanliness. And as they say, cleanliness is next to godliness.
Right.
But if we're judging godliness by that, we're far gone as far from godliness by cleanliness standards. So we've got to talk about cleanliness.
Right.
Is it the responsibility of citizens, or is the responsibility of the government superstructure? Is it a private endeavor, or is it a governmental war against filth and cleanliness in the country?
Right. So starting off, greetings to yourself, to our viewers out there. Yes. Right. So we're dealing in sanitation. Yes. Cleanliness will be on the personal level, small, but then on the national scale, let's look at it from the point of view of sanitation. Right. So whose responsibility? Well, for a large number of people, say the population of Ghana, yes, you need government to set the pace. Right. How do I mean? From collection to disposal.
Yes.
Individuals will not be able to handle the amount or the volume of waste that we are producing, be it solid, liquid, whichever form you're looking at here. So government is the only player in that space that would have the capacity to handle such large quantities, yes. So that's why I would say it's the government's responsibility first to give some direction, right? Yes. But then, yes, as citizens, we have to play our part in maintaining that functioning system. So what I mean is, for instance, disposal of household waste, right? That before a very long time we saw the landfill system, where there's a big space of land, everything is just dumped there continuously. Yes, we've gone to a point where that is not sustainable. Accra has had to change landfill sites. This is the second time they've done that because they keep getting full to capacity. Then we have to find another one, right? Now, with the challenge of land acquisition, even for residential purposes, land is scarce as it is. So to find available large tracts of land to be used as landfill sites is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So would have to even look at more efficient ways of handling our waste, renewable,
sustainable.
Renewable processes and all of that. Yeah, so that is one aspect. But like I'm saying, it's a huge volume of waste that would have to be dealt with. So government would be the one best suited to handle some of these things. You see, so provision of even the collection service. You realize we've had certain private individuals who have tried to take advantage of the system, but on that scale, on that level, it would only make sense if the biggest player, which is government, steps into that space. So for a long time, we saw a campaign that was run trying to get our people to keep our communities clean. There were several campaigns and all of those. They worked to some extent. But there's one disturbing thing I've noticed, and it's quite prevalent. There was this initiative that brought waste bins to bus stop terminals, right?
Yeah.
So then it was supposed to help people prevent littering. So you get to the bus stop where the bin is, you put it in there.
Yeah.
But then for a very long time, we saw there was a problem with collection and management.
Yes.
So you get to a bus stop, you see a similar bin, but then it's overflowing,
Yes.
and there's garbage everywhere on the ground and all of that. You see.
Yes, creating an eyesore.
Yeah, so then that becomes a problem. You go to some market spaces, you see there are these giant metal bins that they put in the community to collect waste.
Yes.
Similar thing, you find times when collection is long past, and then, the collection data are long overdue.
No
You find-
collectors to comfort them.
So then the rubbish overflows, is all over, on the ground and all of that. Yes. In such an instance, if government does not create avenues or systems to collect the waste efficiently, it becomes very difficult to enforce the law on citizens not to litter.
Yeah.
You see, because if they don't have a means of disposing of the waste themselves, where do they take the rubbish to?
Yes, and that brings the subject of
Right.
what made we think that dealing with waste and there's no scientific attitude to it. Like we
Right.
keep it to the old. Like why should we have a landfill site
Right.
when there are other
Renewable,
sustainable
processes? Yes.
yes, and people elsewhere people are making money off waste.
Right. Commercialization of the waste.
Out here,
Yeah.
waste is killing us.
Right.
It's becoming a problem. And we know solving problems create wealth. See, and also the collection of waste and personnel working in the waste industry is not lucrative.
Right. Right.
They don't pay them enough to be lucrative, to be
right.
worth it doing it. Elsewhere, the person doing it is proud doing it because at the end of the day, he will get value for his work.
Right.
Out here, we treat them as what it is, garbage.
Garbage. Right. No, I see what you mean, and that what you're describing would be what I like to refer to as commercialization of the waste. Right. So, if, for instance, we knew a kilogram of plastic bottles, used plastic bottles, yes, would be, let's say, 100 cedis. It would be very expensive to leave such plastic bottles lying around doing nothing.
Yes.
You get it? People will be forced to collect them.
Yes.
Right? So they'll be incentivized to develop means of collection of
Exactly.
of the waste products, and that's how you commercialize waste.
Yes, exactly.
That's where you can add value to it, and then
Yes.
it takes care of itself.
Yes.
So people are not allowed to just be anywhere at all.
Yes.
So it's something that beats my mind. I try to imagine why we've not been able to think about that to initiate some. So I've seen some recycling companies, private, that have sought to do something like that. So they give some reward for certain quantities of
Yes,
plastics and all
yes,
that.
and
But
that is laudable, and it is the manufacturers, the companies,
yes,
that can lead the way. For example, manufacturers producing, and they, especially those who provide provision for malls,
Right.
the malls we know. So you tell your customers the waste, plastic waste or whatever, when
Right.
you bring it back, you get a bonus.
discount on your next
exactly,
purchase, yes.
create some, you
Yes.
know.
So then again, all of this rests on government.
Yeah.
Government could solve all of this with just one policy.
Yes.
You see, that
Yes.
would enforce some of these things.
Yes.
And it makes it
So
easy dealing with the waste. But
Yes. So the problem is the mindset. Not government not having scientific means of dealing with waste. If any leader with a will to end it can come up with bright solutions and enforcement. Our military, imagine the circle or Door River, and we see our personal soldiers cleaning the field in the city, and after cleaning, they leave one or two personnel to stand there. You think anybody can drop anything in the city? That could be the military. Could be a constructive way of ending. You see a soldier cleaning, and you think you can mess it up after he does that.
So that's the thing. That means it will become an extra expensive means of enforcing
for
that.
Government.
You see,
Okay.
but I'm saying we could find relatively cheaper or more sustainable means of dealing with. That would end the problem overnight. But then it means whenever the personnel are not deployed, then people are going to do what they have to do, you see. And to police or to guard the whole stretch of that door alone is going to be quite expensive. But I'm saying if you commercialize the waste and you make it valuable, too valuable to let it lie just anywhere.
So commercializing it.
The waste, yes.
By government or still private individuals.
So like I said, government can lead the way with the legislation.
Yes.
Make it a policy. And then all the manufacturers who use single-use plastics particularly, yes, would have to, or even recyclable plastic would have to factor it into the operational cost, you see. So for instance, if you buy a pack of bottled water for, let's say, 30 cedis, we're saying if you can bring, and it has 24 bottles, right? If you can bring 24 empty water bottles, on your next purchase, instead of paying maybe 30 cedis, you get 5 cedis off, 25 cedis. That's commercialization of the waste, right? You're adding value to what would have been waste plastic bottles. So now someone knows if I can gather or I can keep my 12 or 24 bottles I have used, then I can get 5 CD discount on it. I mean, that incentivizes people to collect the waste instead of just discarding them. You get it. So that's what I mean by commercialization of the waste. It makes it valuable for people to collect and to return, you know. And yes, recycling. So if government can give certain stipends or certain incentives as well to those manufacturing companies to want to take the waste back from the people and reuse, then yes, they will also be not forced. They will actually be encouraged, yes, incentivized to adopt some of these policies. And that's what I mean by commercialization of the waste.
Can you expand on commercialization
of the waste?
Yes.
Yes, right. So what I mean is like I said, government would have to lead that initiative, right? If it was a policy to give tax breaks or certain incentives to the producers of commodities that use plastics, right? That, for instance, if a pack of water in the plastic bottles costs 30 cedis, right? And if I return that same pack, empty bottles, so 24 empty bottles, I can get, let's say, a discount of 5 cedis. This incentivizes or makes it easy for the consumers to collect the bottles and then return them, right? So they can get that 5% discount, that 5 cedis discount. Government can, in turn, extend that privilege or that incentive to the producers as well. That if you adopt that policy of reusing your plastic bottles, right, rather than discard them, go and order new ones. If you can find a way to recycle, reuse the plastics, there are certain tax breaks or tax incentives that you get. That could be a win-win situation. So you realize right from source to the final consumer, there's a incentive in there for the customers, that's the consumers and the producers, to want to take back the waste and reuse them.
Then
see,
that should properly cover the sachet plastic.
Yeah, so all single and reusable
water sachets.
Sachets, yeah.
Because that's becoming the canker.
Right.
All the gutters.
Right.
It's easy to dispose them. people just finish drinking the water. They can leave it anywhere because there are no bins anywhere to just drop it in out of decency if you want to. So you can walk, and if you want to keep such a thing, it means you will keep it in your pocket or in your bag.
Right.
It seems the whole system is not sustainable for managing waste.
Right.
So on an individual level, you can be level-headed that you respect yourself as you are in your home. You don't litter anywhere. So when you go out, you don't want to do that. But there comes a situation where you need to dispose of, for example, the water you drank.
Right.
And after drinking it, you walk kilometers without seeing one bin.
Right.
In that case, if nobody's watching, it's easy for the person to drop it on the floor.
Right.
And once it drops on the floor, it goes into the gutter. Rain comes and everywhere is flooded.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. If you commercialize the waste, right, then individuals will be incentivized or motivated, encouraged to keep that rubber so they can use it for something else because they can trade it in for some money. I'll give you a typical example. Today, particularly in Ghana, in Accra, if you had any metal waste or scraps, you know what you do with it? You wait till you find those scrap dealers, yes, and you exchange it for some very cool cash. So people are incentivized not to just dispose of their metal waste right now as it stands. They would keep it till they get those scrap dealers and then sell it off so they can make some money. You see, so can you imagine if such has been done to all our plastic waste? People will be incentivized not to throw out, not to discard them just like that, but to want to keep them, stash them, especially if it's compounded. That if you have, let's say, a kilogram of waste will cost you X amount. It takes quite a number of those sachets to get a kilogram, you see. So it's going to want you to keep accumulating them, collecting them over a period. So if you incentivize people, they're going to do that, as is being done with the metal or the scraps, right? Yes, metal waste. So if we find a way to do the same thing with the plastics, trust me, people would keep it properly so they can exchange it for some monies. And that's what I mean by the commercialization of the waste.
Elsewhere, like for example, in China,
right,
every company that produces any commodity, they learn how to process or recycle the end product. The waste they may potentially produce. They learn how to refine it, so manage it. Right. So it will be a cycle that the customer buys, go consume it, and brings the waste
back to the company.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So that's government policy.
Yes.
You see, as I said, even though the individuals will be directly responsible for enforcing that, yes, government would have to
need a superstructure, yes.
Put that structure, and that's a policy, yes, and then people know what to do,
yes,
and how to do this. So waste is a very sensitive issue, and my frustration is with why successive governments have not been able to think about this to stop it, right? To find a lasting solution to it. There's this technology that I was trying to get into sometime, not too long ago, but waste to energy, right? Where we can generate energy out of our waste. Right?
Yeah.
And that was supposed to even go to help with our current energy situation.
Exactly.
If you can have readily available power, that was going to be used for certain things. It could,
that would be a whole hell of a power to produce, because we got a lot of waste.
A lot of waste, yes. And and I'm so glad right now we have EVs, electric cars coming up right now. One of the things you need constantly for that would be charging station.
Yes.
For these. So can you imagine if we had an efficient waste energy plant that was generating quite enough electricity?
Yes.
It might not be enough to generate, to power industries or heavy industries and all of that for manufacturing, but for charging electronic vehicles, that would be quite a very interesting, use of our waste. And I was hoping governments would have been able to see that far, think about it, and then implement some of these things. But I've been chasing this project since 2017, and it's still nothing,
Because it's not pretty, especially in the cities.
It's not profitable.
Yeah.
In the short term. So these are projects that would have to be social expenditure by government. Again, that's why government will be the most viable person to do this, because the private sector will be looking at how they can make their monies back in the shortest possible time and make some profit as well. But for government, I mean, this would have been a social spending, social expenditure. So they will not be necessarily done for profit. But this is going to be profitable because with the increased use, with the increasing use of electronic cars, right, you're going to need constant supply of energy to be charging those up. So if we can have this dedicated to that industry, I mean, there's a ready market for energy, you see, and then it'll be profitable to some extent. But then yes, this needs leadership. It needs government intervention to lead the way, and policy would help drive this thing very quickly. Yes.
And I don't see any direction or intention towards waste amongst our politicians. See, it seems our system have been so individualized that once you're home, you think your home is clean. Anywhere else can be filthy. But when it rains, the rain treats everybody equally.
Right.
That's when you know that when you saw your neighbor dumping waste in the gutter, you should have told the neighbor, but you thought it wasn't part of your problem. But the rain will make it a collective problem. So sanitation is a collective problem.
Yes.
See, so.
But when we're dealing with the flooding situation, it will not just be with the
sanitation
issue.
Yeah, zoning improper.
But even with that, you see, one of the things we have to understand is floods have to do with the volume, not just the blockages of waterways, but with the volume of water that is present. Man, that's what you have to look at. So even if you have a draining system, but it is not designed to carry certain volumes of water, you would definitely still have flooding, even though your drains are not clogged and all of that. You see, so it has more to do with the volume of the water, not just what has been blocked, right? Because, like I said, you can have free-flowing drains, but if it's not built to carry a certain capacity of water, you might still have flooding. That's one of the things that I've not really heard going into our conversations. All our conversations seem to be bordered around our drains being blocked, so the water doesn't have its way to run.
Waterways,
people are built on
open gutters.
Right.
See,
so
enclosed and open gutters.
Yes. So I'm saying it is not just open and closing the gutters, right? But it's about designing the gutters to carry certain volumes of water.
Yes.
That's one part that's been lacking from our conversations, right? People always talk about the drainage being clogged,
yes,
or non-existent, or people building on waterways. Those are factors, yes. But I'm saying our drainage system that we have has not really been designed to carry certain levels or certain quantities of water. So it makes flooding a very easy thing too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes.
Yeah.
But if it can be a deliberate, conscious engineering design for our drainage system to be able to hold certain capacities of water, then it aids in the drainage system as well. You see? So you see major highways or places that are prone to have floods, and you have regular gutter sizes like every other place you have. I mean, it does not make sense.
Yeah.
If those places are known to have heavy rainfall or are more prone to accumulate certain large volumes of water, then you have drainage systems that will have the capacity of,
Our engineers and contractors should know that.
It's supposed to be common knowledge, or I expect it to be common knowledge.
Yes,
but
and
that's not our reality.
Yes, and they construct roads and some non-existent gutters.
You see. So supervise. So it could be, and again, this is a matter of policy. You see, that's how government plays or regulates the market space. So government could have a policy that says every major road that would have to be built has to have a certain standard or size of drainage system attached to it. You see, that becomes standard practice. So it doesn't matter where you're building your road at, whatever it is. Once you're constructing a road,
Yeah.
government's directive is that it has to have an attached drainage system of a
Yes.
certain capacity.
Yes.
You know,
And
minimum.
size. Yes.
So that when it doesn't matter who the contractor is, it could
Yeah.
be private, it could be whoever. But
Yeah.
then once
but
you're
there
constructing
are
that,
procedures to follow.
exactly, that is where
Yes.
policy becomes
Yes.
really, really crucial.
Yes.
Very crucial.
Yes. And our society is growing, but our attitude towards sanitation has not shown any growth or evolution at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're lagging behind. The private individual thinks he's isolated from the majority, but our problem affects us all,
Yeah.
big or small, rich or poor, and we need extensive education on that
Very
as
much so, yeah.
as citizens. See,
Civic education.
yes,
And it's interesting you mentioned that because that would have to be the duty of the NCC,
Yes.
National Commission for Civic Education.
and they're almost we don't hear them.
Except election period. And then the only thing they do is to teach people how to vote,
How to
where to thumbprint, right? They don't even teach citizens what their rights and responsibilities are supposed to be as citizens. They don't teach those. You just teach them it's election time. When you go to the polling station, you get the ballot paper. This is what it looks like. You put your thumb here and there. So they just teach people how to vote. And that's where it ends. But you see, civic education is supposed to teach the people what their rights and responsibilities, which is very key.
Yes.
What their responsibilities are as citizens, you see. So even not littering, making sure your environment is clean, proper
Yeah.
disposal of waste and all
Yeah.
of that. These are civic responsibilities.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes, and in fact,
Education is key.
sanitation should be a subject in our curriculum. See, it's a shame. The city stinks. Yeah,
Accra is quite filthy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
It's
quite
really filthy,
stinky.
yeah.
Yes,